Today we're going to look into a trade from the 2016 offseason. In the 7 years since, both teams have found some pretty good success with the 5 players involved. This is the Mariners, Diamondbacks, Jean Segura, and Ketel Marte trade tree. The Mariners were moving towards competition in 2016. They put up 10 more wins than the season before, and they finished just 3 games back of the wild card. In the offseason, they were looking to upgrade one of the biggest holes on their roster, which was shortstop. 23-year-old Ketel Marte had been the starter there for the last year and a half, but he'd been below average on both sides of the ball, and while he showed some promise, the Mariners were looking to compete now, and Marte just wasn't ready yet. Now, Jean Segura was coming off a phenomenal year. In his only year in Arizona, the 26-year-old slashed .319, .368, .499 for a .122 OPS+. He led the NL in hits, he put up 6.4 WAR, and he got MVP votes. With depth at middle infield and 1 year remaining before Segura hit free agency, the Diamondbacks decided to sell high on him. So here's the trade. Arizona received starting pitcher Taijuan Walker and Ketel Marte, and the Mariners received relief pitcher Zach Curtis, outfielder Mitch Haniger, and Jean Segura. So how did the Diamondbacks do? Well, Walker had spent the past 4 seasons in and out of the Mariners rotation, but he hadn't quite put it all together yet at the time of the trade, and he was someone the Diamondbacks had had their eye on for years. He was the centerpiece of a trade for Justin Upton in 2013 that Upton had used his no-trade clause to veto, so they really wanted him. The 24-year-old Walker slotted into the Diamondbacks rotation as their number 4 starter, behind Zach Greinke, Patrick Corbin, and Robbie Ray, and he was very good in 2017. Through 28 starts, he pitched to a 9-9 record and a 1.35 ERA+. His 2018 started out well, as the Diamondbacks won his first 2 starts. He left the next start after the second inning with tightness in his throwing arm, and he was diagnosed with a partially torn UCL. Walker needed Tommy John surgery, which ruled him out for the rest of 2019 and most of 2019. He returned for the final game of the 2019 season. He pitched the first inning against San Diego, giving up a hit and no runs. Then he left as a free agent after the season. Across 171 and a third innings with Arizona, Walker had a 9-9 record and 2.9 WAR. Ketel Marte started in AAA with Arizona, but he was called up in June of 2017 to replace injured starting shortstop Nick Ahmed. He was okay at the plate with an 88 OPS+ in 73 games. In the 2017 NL wildcard game against the Rockies, Marte went 3 for 5 with 2 triples to lead the Diamondbacks to an 11-8 win. He kept performing well in the NLDS against the Dodgers with a hit in each game as the Diamondbacks were swept. For 2018, Marte shifted to second base to make room for the now healthy Ahmed, and he put together a really strong, full breakout season. In 153 games, he slashed .260, .332, .437 for a 102 OPS+, and he played elite defense at second base, enough to accumulate nearly 4 WAR on the season. He also led MLB with 12 triples. 2019 was even better for Marte. He added center field to his positional repertoire, splitting time between there and second base. Maybe in part due to the juiced ball that year, he slashed .329, .389, .592 for a ridiculous 149 OPS+, and he hit 32 home runs, surpassing his previous high of 14. He started at second in the All-Star game, and he finished 4th in NL MVP voting. The next couple seasons were rough for Marte. A wrist injury in 2020 led to his OPS+ dropping to 97, and in 2021 he did perform well, but he only played in 90 games due to hamstring and hip injuries. Heading into 2022, Marte signed an extension worth $76 million that will keep him in Arizona through 2027. In 2022, he was finally mostly healthy, but his power had vanished. Marte only hit 12 home runs and put up a 105 OPS+ in 137 games. 2023 was finally a return to form for Marte that the Diamondbacks had been hoping for. He slashed .276, .358, .485 for a 128 OPS+ in 150 games as Arizona reached the postseason for the first time in 6 years. In the playoffs, the Diamondbacks went on a crazy run with Marte at the center of it. He got a hit in every game until Game 5 of the World Series, setting an MLB record for longest playoff hitting streak with 20. He slashed .329, .380, .534 in the playoffs and won the NLCS MVP. While the Diamondbacks fell short of their ultimate goal, losing the World Series to the Texas Rangers in 5 games, Marte cemented himself as one of the best clutch performers in baseball. In his 7 years with the Diamondbacks, Marte has played in 792 games, he's hit 104 home runs, 370 RBIs, and slashed .282, .352, .478 for a 121 OPS+, and he's put up 21.9 WAR. He's also just 30, so if the past season's any indication, the Diamondbacks will likely see another couple solid seasons from him. So altogether, Arizona got 24.8 WAR out of this trade. Walker had 1 solid year, but Marte is a true star and one the Mariners probably regret giving away. Now let's see how much they regret it, if they actually regret it at all. Zach Curtis was called up to the Mariners in 2017. He made 2 relief appearances in May and 1 more in June. In 4 2/3 innings, he gave up no runs, walked 1, and struck out 2, putting up 0 WAR. In September, he was claimed off waivers by the Phillies. Now, going into the 2017 season, Mitch Haniger was the Mariners' number 5 prospect. He made the team out of camp, starting in right field and batting second on opening day. And he had a very solid first year in Seattle. He missed about a month after taking a fastball to the face from Jacob deGrom, but in 96 games, Haniger put up a 127 OPS+. And despite making 5 errors, his defense showed promise. Haniger started 2018 very hot. Entering the All-Star break, he'd already topped his career highs with 18 home runs and 67 RBI, and he was named to the All-Star game. He cooled off the rest of the season, like most of the team, and he still finished with great numbers, putting up a 139 OPS+ and 6.5 WAR, and receiving MVP votes. 2019 started out rough for Haniger. In 63 games, he slashed .220, .314, .463 for just a 108 OPS+. In June, he fouled a pitch directly into his groin, and he missed the rest of the season recovering from that injury. And between that and other injuries, he also sat out the lockdown-shortened 2020 season. Haniger returned in 2021, finally fully healthy, and he had a great year. He set new career highs in home runs with 39 and RBI with 100. He put up 122 OPS+, and again received MVP votes. Haniger started off slow in 2022, and towards the end of April, he injured his ankle. He didn't return until August. He was solid when he returned and decent in the playoffs for the Mariners. And then he left as a free agent after the season. Across 5 seasons in Seattle, Haniger played in 530 games. He had 107 home runs, 306 RBI, and slashed .263, .337, .480 for an OPS+ of 126 and put up 15.5 WAR. Now, as expected, Jean Segura slotted as the Mariners' primary shortstop. His 2017 was not quite on the level as the previous year, but he was still very solid. He slashed .300, .349, .427 for a 111 OPS+ in 125 games. He showcased elite speed, stealing 20 bases for the 5th straight season. Instead of hitting free agency at the end of the season, in June, Segura signed a $70 million extension to keep him in Seattle through 2022 that included a no-trade clause. Segura's 2018 was very similar to his 2017, though his first half was phenomenal. At the All-Star break, he was hitting .329, and he appeared in the All-Star game, hitting a home run off Josh Hader. Segura had a rough second half, but finished the season strong, ending with a slash line of .304, .341, .415 for a 112 OPS+ in 144 games. He stole 20 bases again, and he led MLB in singles with 136. The Mariners as a whole collapsed in the second half and missed the playoffs, and general manager Jerry Dipoto decided to enter a rebuild. He sold off most of the team's star players, sending Edwin Diaz and Robinson Cano to the Mets and James Paxton to the Yankees. Segura was also on the move, and he waived his no-trade clause. In his 2 years with Seattle, Segura played in 269 games, hit 21 home runs, 108 RBI, stole 42 bases, and slashed .302, .345, .421 for an OPS+ of 112, and he put up 7.4 WAR. Segura was packaged with pitchers Juan Nicasio and James Pazos and sent to the Phillies for young shortstop J.P. Crawford and first baseman Carlos Santana. Crawford had been a bit of a disappointment in Philadelphia. The former first-round pick was the Phillies' opening day shortstop in 2018, but he hadn't put things together quite yet. He hit .214 in his 49 MLB games and spent most of the season in the minors. The Phillies were aiming to contend, and despite Crawford being just 23 and having high potential, they wanted a shortstop upgrade and were willing to give him up to get Segura. Crawford opened 2019 in the minors, but a hot start to the season in AAA, including a 31-game on-base streak, led the Mariners to call him up in mid-May. He was solid that year in the majors with an 86 OPS+ in 93 games and providing pretty good defense at short. 2020 was an improvement as Crawford focused away from power and towards contact at the plate, raising his OPS+ to 91 and his batting average nearly 30 points. His defense continued to stand out and he won the AL Gold Glove. 2021 and 2022 were another step forward for Crawford as he put up an OPS+ of 101 across the 2 seasons. In early 2022, he signed an extension worth $51 million that keeps him in Seattle through 2027. In the 2022 playoffs, the Mariners' first appearance in over 20 years, Crawford started all 5 games at shortstop and he batted 9th. The Mariners swept the Blue Jays in the wildcard series, but while Crawford reached base in every game, the team struggled against the eventual champion Astros and were swept in 3 games. In 2023, Crawford, now 28, improved even further. He led the AL in walks with 94, and he slashed .266, .380, .438, good for an OPS+ of 131. He also received a few down-ballot MVP votes. Altogether, Crawford has played in 596 games with the Mariners. He's hit 43 home runs, 231 RBI, and slashed .255, .345, .377 for a 105 OPS+, and put up 14.8 WAR. And plus, he's still under contract for the next 4 years. Now, Carlos Santana didn't last long enough in Seattle to even play a single game. 10 days after being traded to the Mariners, they moved him in a 3-team deal to the Cleveland Indians, and they received first baseman Edwin Encarnacion and a 2019 competitive balanced draft pick. Encarnacion split time between first base and DH to start 2019, and he still had his power, hitting 21 home runs and 49 RBI, and slashing .241, .356, .531, for an OPS plus of 137 and 2.1 WAR in just 65 games. In June, Encarnacion was traded to the Yankees for minor league pitcher Juan Ten. Ten reached the majors briefly in 2023. He made 9 appearances out of the bullpen. In 11 innings, he pitched to an 85 ERA plus and 0 WAR and became a free agent after the season. It is possible that Ten will return to the Mariners on a new contract, though there hasn't really been any news on that front. Now, the Mariners used the draft pick on Arkansas pitcher Isaiah Campbell. Campbell reached the majors in July of 2023, and he spent the second half of the season in the Seattle bullpen. The 25-year-old performed well in his first major league action, pitching to a 144 ERA plus, 1.2 WHIP, and .5 WAR. After the season, he was traded to the Boston Red Sox for infielder Luis Urias. Urias is likely to slot in as the Mariners starter at either second or third next year. So in total, the Mariners have gotten 40.3 WAR from this trade, and they still have a couple years left for J.P. Crawford and Luis Urias. Now, this is one of those rare win-win trades. I do think both teams won here. 3 of the 5 players in the initial deal put up 5 or more WAR with their new team, and both teams still have valuable players on their roster more than 7 years later. If I had to pick one, I would lean Mariners. Haniger and Segura both panned out heavily for them, and they got really good value out of trading Segura, while Taijuan Walker was unfortunately injured for most of his time with the Diamondbacks. The losers here are the Phillies, though I will note that Jean Segura had 4 solid years there, and J.P. Crawford wasn't very good for them. It's entirely possible that he doesn't become the J.P. Crawford we know today if he stays in Philadelphia. Anyway, if you made it this far, leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Let me know down in the comments who you think won this trade or any others you want to see me cover, and you'll see you all in the next trade tree. Next, I'll be tackling the massive Bartolo Colon trade from 2002.